what we're going to talk about tonight is I'm going to go over some basics on fixer-upper houses and private loan guides and everything. The reason why this is important is, most everybody in here is going to know some of this situation, but a lot of people don't know that some of the things are still available that they heard about years ago and thought that maybe they had gone away. Because remember, after COVID happened, then we lost a lot of programs and we lost a lot of things, and a lot of people didn't think that the government was still getting involved with anything. There was loans that we used to be able to end up trying to get out there as far as rehab loans and everything, and everybody thought that they had gone away. What it was, it's just that nobody could do them anymore because you couldn't have more than a certain number of people in a room. You couldn't have, you couldn't be around people. You couldn't be 6 feet away from people. You couldn't have 6 people. It killed the real estate business in order to, for whatever it was that it was happening. Tony and I have trained in front of 33 to 3,500 people at a time, and it was amazing. You used to have real estate seminars at Madison Square Garden, and I remember that we were speaking at Georgia RIA, and Georgia RIA had 3,000 people in there at once. I remember there was a time that I got a phone call from them, and they ended up saying, "Hey, Ron LeGrand can't make it tonight because something about his plane wouldn't start. His plane wouldn't start and everything, and he wasn't going to make it in time." And they said, "Are you in town?" I said, "Yeah." They said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm up on a ladder spraying a house." And they said, "Can you be here in 2 hours?" And I said, "Okay." So I jumped off the ladder and everything and took off up there. When I pulled into the parking lot, Jeff Frank was there in a volunteer outfit and everything. He jumped in my car and went to park it. As I was getting out of the car, they were reaching under my sports coat and everything, putting a microphone on me and everything. Somebody grabbed my rolling office that had my computer in it and ran up there and set it up. And I went walking in, and they walked me up on stage and ended up saying, "Well, here he is," and everything. And I stood up there and I looked across, and there was 1,500 and some people out there expecting Ron LeGrand, and got me.
Which was better.
And what a bunch of lucky people they were. Because, I know there's, Ron LeGrand sometimes can be a butt, okay, since there's other ears in the room and everything, I'll say that. Now, I respect everything that he's ever done in his life. He's a great real estate guy, but as a person, he is not real fun to be around if you don't like somebody that's straight to the point and he doesn't give a crap.
Or as a restaurateur.
Or as a restaurateur. I can't spell that, but I can hire somebody who can. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get on with this. Okay, so finding fixer-uppers. All right, what you want, the first thing you need to do is you want to secure whatever financing that you're going to do. It's like Chip said, they have up to 100% financing and everything for the fix-up and the purchase price and everything. But you got to remember, you need to be buying properties to where you're not going over 70% of the after repair value and stuff like that, okay? So that's why your education comes in. You can have somebody that'll end up helping you, and that's how you end up buying with no money down out of your own pocket. See, a lot of times no money down doesn't mean that you don't have to come up with something. What it means is you don't necessarily have to use your own money, okay? It's like Jeff McCann over here. He ends up saying all kinds of stuff. Okay, the OPM in his thing is other people's money. I'm sure that's what it is, right? I've never asked him and everything, but just based on what I've seen him and known him do and everything, as a matter of fact, we're working on something ourselves and everything. So, other people's money is the way to go. Or make sure that you know what's available to you, such as things like these. Most traditional mortgages will not fund a home that has significant repair damage to it, okay? That's your traditional things. That's why you come to a place like this. A real estate investment club is going to end up having people in there, not only the vendors in the back, but there's also partners out there that will end up putting money up and partner with you on deals, okay? Some people want to partner because they don't want to end up going through this without somebody that's been there, done that, to end up helping them go through it. That's why we have training programs like with Tony that will actually take you by the hand and actually walk to you with every deal and everything. He'll take you to 30 deals. Tom has ended up sending me deals and everything, and it was my fault that I did not make it come through. I went, he told me what to offer and everything. I went there and offered it. They negotiated with me. I went out of town, and by the time I got back in town, somebody had jumped on the deal because it was that good of a deal. Now, did I end up thinking that, I wish that Tom had no, Tom gave me a deal in my lap and I blew it and everything. So if somebody ends up going out of their way to help you, then act, okay? You gotta act and everything. This is not the kind of game that these days that you can end up, you see an opportunity, you need to take it right then. Because if you wait, there's 10 other people waiting to take that opportunity from you, okay? Now, there's lots of people out there that will end up knocking on doors and everything, but what you gotta do is you've gotta be consistent. My brother Tony has been knocking on doors at least 30, 40, 50, 60 doors a weekend, every weekend, regardless of what weekend it is, unless we're off teaching on a cruise, which we will be next month and everything. But religiously, he's done that. Does he need to do it? No. Does he always train when he's doing it? No. He does it because that's what he's trained himself to do. He knows that he has to have a system and discipline. Those are his own words. You need a system and discipline. And so he has disciplined himself to end up doing it every weekend, whether you feel like it or not. Okay, there's a lot of times that I get up in the morning and don't want to end up doing what I think that I should do. And you know what? I found out when I was way overweight, that, you know what, I had been telling myself for years that I was going to get up and I was going to do something about my weight. And, all of a sudden I was 80 pounds overweight, and if I lost 80 pounds, I'd still need to lose weight. So it was one of those things. So the thing is that if somebody's going to end up taking you, like that, you got to end up acting, okay? You don't expect a deal to come to you and everything, because though you might hear stories about it, those are few and far between. People make their own luck. You want to be successful in this business, take the time to get some real education and everything, and actually go with somebody who knows what they're doing. And if you don't feel confident doing it yourself, then split the profit with somebody or pay somebody who's been there, done that, to end up doing it for you, or at least take you through the steps and everything. And you know what? A lot of people, they can't guarantee that you're going to get a property every time, but the thing is, if they show you the steps and you continue to use that discipline and continue to do what you learned, that's what I've learned over the years, is that, you know what, it doesn't all come all at once. You're not going to make it all in one deal, but if you're willing to end up doing the discipline part of it, then over time you will end up making more deals than you ever thought that you would. And I think that everybody in here that's got lots of deals under their belt would end up saying, I had no clue that I'd ever have done half as many deals as I've done, and I didn't think that they would be as successful as they were. Now, did we struggle? Sure. But the thing is that, you know what, you don't know what a good deal is until you've struggled with a bad deal. And people will tell you that you're not a real estate investor until you've had a bad deal. Now, the good part about that is that when you're paying somebody to teach you this, then they can tell you about their bad deal so that you experience it through their mistake, not yours. And that doesn't cost you any money. And that's part of education is not what you should do, but a lot of education is what we did that hurt us, and we're teaching you not to do that. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the other thing, choose a renovation loan, okay? If you're not going through CHIP in the back and everything, which is the easiest way to go. But let's say that you want to end up doing it without somebody like that and you want to do something on your own. Well, remember back when they used to have the FHA 203K loans? You know what? They still have those loans and people have forgotten about them. But they're one of the, I'm not going to end up saying this because I remember that somebody got taken off of the air for saying something similar and everything. Maybe not the exact same thing. But, these loans are ones that if the house qualifies well enough, then you should get approved for it. They ended up making a statement to where if you ended up doing a certain thing, then you're guaranteed to get it. And there are no guarantees. So what happened is somebody complained that he guaranteed it or said the word guarantee. And so then, you can always end up making an enemy in every crowd. So anyway, so that didn't work. But you know what? Check into that and everything. Yes, go ahead.
You have to jump through hoops nowadays for that 203K, like
Basically,
800 credit score and tax returns.
what you want to do is you want to go online and actually Google on it for your area in your zip code or your county. What does it take or what's required to end up applying for this loan? And it will tell you the list of paperwork or what the restrictions are that you have to meet. And then you can read that and decide whether you want to end up jumping through those hoops. And if they're not that big of a jump for you, then you go for it. If they're more than what you want to do, then you can pay a little bit of extra more interest and everything and have somebody that will just look at the deal itself, won't even look at you. That's one of the best benefits of using somebody that would be a vendor for us, is that they're not looking at you, they're looking at the numbers of the deal. And they don't care what you've done, provided that the deal works out and they are secured with their financing. Okay, so as long as you can end up showing somebody that you mean what you say, and if you do fail, then they can recover by the asset that you've put up or whatever it is that you've put up for the collateral. If that will cover their money, then they'll back you every single time. Because what we don't want to do is take something back that we don't want. So just make sure that you're buying properties that people want and everything, and you're buying them right, and you'll always be good. Now, getting pre-approval and everything, that's, you end up finding out what your budget is. If you ended up needing to go to a bank to get financing, or you ended up going to a private money lender. Let's say somebody came to me and said, Pete, I'm looking to end up buying a piece of property, but I need to go with private money instead of something else. I want to do a private money loan. Then I would end up telling them, well, here's what I would need for the property to qualify for me to put up the money. And somebody else might be different. But if you tell me what it is that you're trying to do, I can tell you what it would take for us to pre-approve you to loan you that amount of money. So if you came saying, I wanted $200,000 and everything, then I would say, tell me about the deal that you're looking into, and we would end up saying, okay, if you want $200,000, here's what the deal figures have to look like. And we'll give you that. So then you know that when you're looking at properties, if it doesn't meet that, then you're not going to get it and everything. So we can actually end up telling you what it is so that you're not wasting your time and you're not wasting ours. It's just like Chip stood up here and he said, this is what we require and everything. He didn't say, we're going to turn you down if this, we're going to approve you if that. He said, this is what's required. So as long as you meet the requirements, then you're good. And if you know what the requirements are before, that's like being pre-approved. You know that if I meet that, then I'm approved. If I don't meet that, then I'm going to go ask him anyway. No, because you know you're not going to be pre-approved. So that's the one thing.
For the property.
Right.
Another deal.
Yep. It's time to move on. And you know what? Big deal. So what? Move on. You know, sometimes you got to look at 20 deals, 30 deals before you end up getting that good one and everything. So, you know, it's one of those things. Lenders in 2026 are looking for a score of 580 for FHA or 620 for conventional. Okay, that's really not that high compared to what's going on. Okay, all right, now this right here was just done. This PowerPoint was made less than 3 days ago. So these are the most current things, and this is basically based on the local banks in the metro Atlanta area. So if you're wondering, where did you get these figures? It's from local banks in the metro Atlanta area. We ended up having the basic figures pulled. You know, I don't know anything about AI. I don't know anything about computers. But I do know that in this room, I can find any information that I want about anything. There's somebody in this room that knows anything that you need to ask. That's why it's important to come to one of these rooms. I don't know nothing about AI, but I ended up saying to somebody who does know AI, I said, how would I end up finding out what the majority of the banks want in this area for XXX? And they said, sit down with me and let me show you. I didn't know how to do it, but if you're willing to give somebody a little bit of money, and a lot of times it's worth every penny that you pay for them to tell you, here's what you need to do. They ended up coming up with what it was and said, here's the figures, here's what you needed and everything. And I go, okay, so now I have what I need. I ended up giving them what they charged for their time to end up getting me that information. Now I have that information. I can use this information until that information's no good anymore. It could be 5 years, it could be 5 minutes. But the thing is that what I learned on that is something that I figure is going to be at least for the next 12 months. And so whatever I paid for it is now good for me to use that information for the next year. To me, that's worth it and everything. And plus, most people, if somebody's charging you, you know, 20 bucks an hour, 30 bucks an hour, 40 bucks an hour, 100 bucks an hour, 500 bucks an hour, depends on what it is they're doing for you. If you end up getting what you're looking for and you can make money off of it and you make a profit off of it, you make that much money back and some on top, then you're doing great, because then you're playing with house money. That's what people don't really fathom about what's going on. Real estate, people say real estate's a gamble, but the thing is that if you're educated enough to where you get ahead and then you take your money that you invested, now that you got the information and you're ahead, then you put that money back. So now you're not ever going to lose, and now you play with house money. Okay? If you lose the house money, you start over again and everything with your own money, and you're still drawing at an even keel. So, but if you end up playing with house money and you win, then you end up taking your profit and put that back and put the other house money back into it. Now you're playing with house money forever. Okay? Here's another thing, just so that you can end up getting what I'm talking about. I have people in this business that they end up going out and they end up buying extravagant stuff and they pay cash for it because they can. I know millions of people in this room, not millions of people, but a lot of people in this room that can go out and pay cash for anything that they want. Okay? I know people like that. But I'm going to use an example and everything, and I hope that nobody knows who I'm talking about because they post pictures on Facebook. But there's a friend of mine who's an actual national real estate speaker, and they're not in this room, and they're not from Georgia, okay? But they ended up posting a picture. I just bought a brand new Corvette, and he's sitting in one of those Corvettes that looks exactly like a Ferrari and everything. I mean, beautiful car. And he's got a picture of himself in it, waving, you know, real happy face and everything. I paid cash for this because of my real estate business and everything. And that's great and everything. And he got like 15,000 likes and all kinds of stuff and everything. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, man, he's a good friend of mine, but you know, that was so dumb. And everybody goes, what's so dumb? Wouldn't you love to have a Corvette and everything? I go, I could have a Corvette and everything. They said, well, what would you do different? And I said, well, okay, number one, a Corvette's just going to get me in trouble, okay? So I could buy one, but I'm not and everything. So they said, what do you drive? I said, I have a Jaguar. And they said, oh, okay, well, that's pretty nice. And I said, yeah, but it's no Corvette, right? And, but the right Jaguar's, a nice car. But the thing is somebody ends up saying, so why do you think that him paying cash for that was such a bad deal? I end up saying this, okay, so what do you think he paid for that car? And they go, well, we looked it up and everything, and they run about $100,000. And I said, okay, so let's say that he paid $100,000 cash for that car, all right? So now he's out $100,000. As soon as he drove it off the lot, that car is now worth $80,000. The minute he drove it off the lot, he puts 10,000 miles on it, now it's worth $75,000. He ends up running it around and everything, and it gets used and everything, then, it's a depreciating asset. And I said, it's a depreciating asset. And they go, yeah, but it's paid for. And I go, but it cost him $100,000. They said, okay, what's your brilliant thing? I said, I take $100,000 and I loan it to somebody who wants to buy a piece of real estate. They secure my $100,000 with the piece of real estate that I loaned them the money on. So I end up giving them $100,000. They give me the rights to that property until they pay my $100,000 back. They said, okay, but where does this come in with your car? I thought we were talking about paying cash for cars. I said, okay, so the Jaguar that I have, $650 a month. And they go, okay, and they said, so why is it $650 a month? I said, because I financed it. And they go, okay, so what's the big deal? I said, I'm charging 15% interest on that $100,000 for 12 months. Okay, so for 12 months, I get what, $1,500? Is that what it works out? $1,500. Or let's just say that, because sometimes I do it for a little cheaper. I never do it my average on $100,000 is $1,200 a month. So if I'm paying $650 a month, I'm paying off the car. Okay, I'm paying the payment for the car. I'm still driving the car. The other thing is I have enough money left over for it that I can pay for the gas, the insurance, and the upkeep of the car and everything. The other thing is that somebody still owes me $100,000, and when they end up reselling that property, then they give me my $100,000 back, and I loan it to somebody else. And I never give up my $100,000. Do you see what I'm saying here? And, the more I end up loaning the money out, then the more money I'm bringing in. And I said, how much do you want to retire with? And they go, well, I've got to retire with at least $1 million. And I end up saying, well, I hate to burst your bubble and everything, but retiring with $1 million and everything is really, that's great and everything, and you'll probably do well. But you know what? You can go through $1 million really fast if you don't think about it. Because somebody ends up saying, "Well, if I won the lottery, if I won $1 million in the lottery, I'd get it for the 20 years and everything." Okay, that's $50,000 a year. Okay, do you work for $50,000 a year now? Well, yeah, they either work for slightly below or some above and everything. But when they think about it, they go, I didn't think about it like that and everything. Because $50,000 a year, if you break it down to by the hour and everything, you can end up spending $50,000 a year real easy. So that's not going to make you rich and everything. But, okay, so the long story short is, don't think that just because you have money and you go out and you spend cash on it, okay? So the other thing is simply this. All I had to do was put stickers on my cars that end up advertising the real estate investment clubs that I have or the companies that you have, and I can write off the cost of that car, the upkeep of the car, the insurance on the car, and all kinds of stuff, because it's a business expense, because I have permanently put on the windshield or the back window, not on the car itself. That's why people wrap cars and everything, because they can take it off 100%. You had something, Joe?
Well, in finance, and it's been around forever, what you need to tell people is equity has value, but it has no earnings.
Right.
So your equity earns you $0 freaking dollars. So if you've got 20% equity in something, that's 20% that's not making you a penny. But if you can borrow and earn at least as much as or more than you're paying for the loan, now your equity is making you money.
Right.
And that, when you look at compound interest,
Mm-hmm.
that is what makes you well off.
Right, so the fact,
Borrow on every frickin' thing.
so the
At a
fact,
reasonable rate.
the fact that I can't get in and out of a Corvette had nothing to do with it and everything. But do you understand that if you could get in and out of a Corvette, do you see how if you had $100,000, if you loaned it to somebody to buy a piece of real estate at 12% or 15%, and what money that you were making on top of it would pay for your Corvette and everything, and you still have your $100,000, and you're not paying out of your pocket for that? Do you see what I'm saying? Does everybody understand what the difference is in buying what it is? Because see, a lot of people would end up saying, I'd love to be able to pay cash for this. I'd love to be able to pay cash for that. People who have money get in debt, because if you're not in debt, you're paying taxes, okay? And the more taxes that you pay, that's just more money that they're gonna give to somebody else, okay? Every time that we pay taxes, they seem to be giving that money to somebody else and everything. And you know what? That cake back there says something about Social Security on it. and the thing is that I keep hearing that I might not have any Social Security coming in and everything, depending on what happens with whoever gets elected and whoever does this, that, and the other. But you know, so I have to depend on myself and everything. I you know, when they say we're from the government and we're here to help, I don't believe that for a minute.
Hey, Pete, can I say something?
Yes.
You know, the candles on his cake contribute to global warming.
Exactly.
Or the baseline for it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have to get some of the younger people in the crowd to help me blow out candles. Because I can't, yeah, the last time we were here, there was 10 fire trucks out here. But, yeah, anyway, anybody who wants to cut that cake, go ahead and cut the cake. All right, location of the house. All right, look for rising neighborhoods. Focus on properties that have new businesses and infrastructures and everything. Okay, that's one of the things that I'm talking about here. All right, everybody knows, and those of you who are new here, I moved from Marietta to Lake Oconee, which is Eatonton, Georgia. It's an hour and a half if there's no traffic, 2 hours on a regular basis because there's always traffic. And now they're doing construction work on 20, and you just pull out here off of 75, hit 20, and go for 85 miles on 20, and then 30 miles into the back roads to Lake Oconee. But the thing is that I've been telling people for 3 years now that they're building a new resort out there called the Len, L-E-N. It's a Marriott-based resort and everything, and it's going to have a bunch of residential houses on it, and it's going to have a bunch of condominiums. I am invested in it and everything. I invested. They have a program to where as they lowered it and everything because of the last money that they need. So they lowered it from $1 million to $500,000 to invest in down to $100,000. And if you're willing to end up waiting until the thing closes, which is 4 years, then they'll pay you 39.9% on the interest. Now, it's good for some people and not good for some people, and I'm not going to end up getting involved in it, and I'm not going to try and sell it right now and everything. I'm just telling you that I'm involved in it. But the thing is that it's because the movement was coming out there, and there's going to be a lot of people that are moving there. And so instead of trying to fight it, I thought, how can I make money off of it? So the other thing that I have found, and this is what's totally about this, location is the big thing. The reason why I'm talking to you about this now is Milledgeville is 25 minutes from where I live, okay? It's not the greatest place in the world, but you can buy properties there, houses, for $40,000, put $10,000 or $12,000 into them, and rent them all day long and everything for $1,200 to $1,400 a month. That's the going rents out there, okay?
And it's got a college.
And that's what I was about to say. There's a college out there, and guess what? If you don't know what Milledgeville was famous for, Milledgeville had 20,000 acres out there that was famous for an insane asylum. And what happened is back in the day, back 100 years ago, people had no idea really what palsy was and what, you know, certain conditions were. When people had epilepsy, when people had these seizures, when they had all that, they thought that there was something wrong with them and that they were possessed and stuff like that. So there was people even from royalty and everything from Europe and England and all these different places. They would ship people that weren't quite right to Milledgeville, Georgia, and put them in this insane asylum to where they would just drop them off and they would sign them in and leave them there. And for years, these people were treated in there with, you know.
And the asylum started here in Metro Atlanta.
Right.
And then they moved it out there.
Frontal lobotomies, bottles in front of me, you know, whatever the case may be, and everything. But, you know, everybody, I mean, they were crazy. But so anyway, so they let those places go to pieces and everything, and they turned them into haunted houses and all kinds of stuff. But there was 20,000 acres out there of abandoned properties that were all around the place. Well, Middle Georgia College or something like that, and a military college has now started buying these up, and they're fixing them up to end up turning them into college places to teach. What that means is that right now, before all this stuff gets to be common knowledge around everybody, like all the properties that I was telling everybody you need to buy around here and everything, let's buy 10 acres here, 20 acres there, and sit on it till somebody wants to come and build a subdivision and everything, and they're going to pay you 3 or 4 times what you paid for the property now and everything, and all you got to do is sit on it. Well, so if you end up going to Milledgeville, which we're going to be taking bus trips out there, I bought a bus and everything. I got to bring it down from one of the other real estate clubs and everything from Toledo. But we're going to end up doing bus trips, and we're going to go to Milledgeville. We're going to buy $30,000, $40,000, and $50,000 houses, put $10,000 or $15,000 into them. But let me tell you why this is good. With that $100,000 that I loan out, and I end up making $1,000 a month or $1,200 a month, whatever the case may be, okay? Think about this. With that same $100,000, if I bought 2 $35,000 houses in Milledgeville, put $15,000 into each one of them, now I've got $100,000 into 2 houses that I can rent for $1,200 and $1,200. That's $2,400 coming in for the same $100,000 that I was happy with making $1,000 or $1,200 a month. Now I've doubled it, or more than doubled. Guess what else I can do? There's going to be people out there that are going to want to buy these houses if you don't want to rent them. So you end up saying, I'll owner finance these properties for 10 years at this amount of money and this amount per month and everything with interest, okay? So now they're paying you and everything, and if I get sick and tired of collecting this money after 3 or 4 years, then there's people in here that buy notes, and I will end up being able to sell the note to somebody in here. Hey, I've got 7 more years of notes left on this. What will you give me for this? And they buy that note from me, I cash out, and I move on to something else. Do y'all follow me on this? If somebody will just tell you how they're making money in real estate, that's how you're going to make money in real estate. Now, people aren't going to do this for free. You're going to have to make an effort, all right? I'm not even charging people to come to the club most of the time and everything. There's people that know that they can come to this club and you won't be turned away because we're here to help people and everything. I'm hoping that whatever happens in here, somebody brings deals to us, and that's why we do it, is for the deals. You know, everybody says, well, you know what, I wouldn't join a club and everything because I don't want to, you know. And so if you join a club, it could be anywhere from $100 to $300 per year and everything, depending on where you go, okay? If you break that down to 12 meetings a year or 10 meetings a year, whatever it is, you know, you're talking about $10, $20, $30 and everything a meeting. You know, if you're not willing to do that, then you're probably not going to make a lot of money in real estate and everything. But the thing is my thing is if you just show up and everything, people go, well, you know, I mean, I'd rather just show up. I don't want to invest in it. Well, guess what? It costs me $500 every time I walk into this room. So I'm paying $500 a month plus food, plus 2 hours to drive here but I'm in a Jaguar most of the time that somebody else is paying for. So, but no, that's just but but the thing is that okay, it's an investment for me. Sure, I've been doing this every month. I've got 3 clubs and everything. I got one in Charlotte and one in Florida and everything. I just started one in Lake Oconee and everything that we're working on now and everything. So it costs money to run it on a monthly income and everything. But the thing is that that's how I find my deals, you know. And the thing is that, you know, do I have to buy education anymore? Hell no, man. I grew up with a brother that's one of the best in the country and everything. So I got my education there. Now, did we end up spending a bunch of money on education? Yeah, we did. And then what happened to us is that we ended up getting invited to go travel around the country and speak with all of the people that we used to watch on TV. And they were heroes of ours, and then they became friends. Then we became partners, and then we became teachers for them and everything. And you know, now some of the people that we used to be on their infomercials and speak on theirs call us for advice and everything. And you know, so it's pretty cool and everything, especially growing up with a brother like Tony, because all I knew was rehab. I didn't know how to find one. But so anyway, the worst house, best street rule and everything, target the least expensive home in a high demand neighborhood. That's what we're talking about now. If we go to Milledgeville, you're going to get cheap houses. But the thing is that the growth is going to move to there and everything. So if you buy now, then you're going to reap later, okay? Those houses are going to double, triple in value. When I first bought my house in Eatonton, I ended up buying it, and I could barely get my foot in the door and everything. And I bought the least expensive house that I could get with the most work needed on it and everything. Otherwise, they would have never let me in there and everything. So I ended up buying that house and everything. We fixed it up ourselves, and within 2 years to 2.5 years, it tripled in value. Now, my thought was I was going to buy one of those, and then I would end up fixing this up, and then I'd be able to buy something that was, you know, a little bit bigger and everything. But the thing is that when mine tripled, so did everybody else's. So it priced me out. So yeah, I could buy one of the other ones and everything, but then all the cushion that I've worked for all these years to end up making sure that when I retired, then I wasn't going to be worrying, you know, where the next thing was going to happen. So yeah, I could buy one of those houses and everything, but I'm pretty cool being where I'm at and everything. I mean, it's not what I dreamed of when I first was saying that I would do this, but I thought that I'd make the next step. But it's not bad, okay? It's, you know, I mean, so I have to get on my golf cart and ride 200 yards to get to my dock, to get on my boat. You know, I can still see the lake, I can still see the golf course. My grandkids love the place, my son loves the place. I don't play golf and everything, but you know, I know people who do, so I get to invite them to come and play and everything, and it's pretty good. All right, so don't rely solely on major apps and everything. Don't be searching online for everything. Get with somebody that will end up taking you where the hot places are and everything. There's loads of people out here that are telling you it doesn't matter if you're in this club, if you're in one of Gordon's clubs, George Ria, or if you're with Tom Begora out there in Cartersville, or whether you're going with Joe and everything, listening to the people, you know, at Mutation Brewery. You know, they're all going to end up telling you where they're investing in. All you got to do is be where the people that are doing this are talking about where they're doing the things, and you'll know where to go. You know, if you can't do it yourself, there's going to be people in the room that are doing it, and you can partner with these people. I don't think that there's anybody in here that if you ended up saying, hey, I found a property and I'm looking for some money, is there anybody in here that would loan me some money on a property in so-and-so, and it's a place they're interested in? It's like, watch this. Hey, if I found a property that had $35,000 profit potential in it, who would loan me the money to get it if I would partner with you on it? Okay, look around. Okay, more than half the room raise their hand. Okay, so do you think that you need to end up searching? You know, it's not like you can go in the yellow pages anymore. It's not like you can Google you know, hey, I need partners, because you're gonna get people that end up saying some weird stuff. You know, but these are the people that are actually doing it right now. All right, you know, you can look at Zillow and Redfin and look for things that look like TLC and everything. And you know what? Zillow's probably gotten a lot better than they used to be, because Zillow used to be so far off when they end up saying this is what the Zillow says that it's worth and everything. What the worst thing in the world that happened is that people found out about Zillow, because then they would go to Zillow to try and figure out what they could sell their house for. And Zillow said it was worth that much and everything. And then you come in and you end up making an offer on their property, and they go, well, Zillow ends up saying it's worth this much. And you got to look at them and go, well, Zillow's full of cake. Zillow's full of chocolate cake and everything. But they have gotten better and everything. Now there's plenty of things that you can do to find out what properties are. I like going on QPublic. Okay, QPublic is something that's really good. I can go on QPublic and end up keying in somebody's name or the address, and it'll pull up and it'll give me what the tax assessed value is, what the fair market value is, who owns it, who this, that, and the other. I use PropStream. Tony, what is it that you end up liking to use? There's a different one that you use that ends up telling you information on properties. What's the one that?
I use PropStream and I use IDI data.
That's right.
IDI data.
Okay, so those are some of the things that'll be more accurate for you and everything. But you know, anytime that you end up talking to realtors and brokers and everything, then you can end up telling them, you know, hey, I'm looking for handyman specialists, I'm looking for TLC, I'm looking for properties that need fixing up. Find somebody who's an investor-friendly realtor and everything. Because a lot of investors say you can't find a good deal on the MLS anymore. And the reason is because everybody bids them up, okay? But the thing is that you gotta end up educating yourself on what tricks can you do to end up bringing that price down once you end up getting the retail price. Now, one of the ways that I do it is I end up I don't go to people's houses and end up doing this. I go on the MLS looking for vacant bank-owned properties. Okay, a vacant bank-owned property. That means that the bank has already taken it back. It means that there's no mortgage on it. There's nothing. They have an asking price for it. Okay, I end up seeing what the asking price is. I will end up, me or some of the people that I'm working with will make an offer on this property for about 5 to 10% below what they're asking, and end up putting that offer in. That will get our foot in the door, because you end up doing what people used to end up doing 5-10 years ago before COVID and stuff, and they end up going, oh, well, I'm just gonna make 50 cents on the dollar offers to everything that I do, and I'll make 150 offers and everything, and I'll get 1 or 2. Maybe so. But if you want to get more consistent and everything, then you got to offer close to what they're asking in order to get your foot in the door. Because nowadays people are bidding properties up. But if you can get listed properties and you can make something close to what they're asking, they might let you come and look at it. Okay? They'll give you a way that you can go and look at it. Once you get in the door, if you're allowed to give an inspection and everything, then that's when I end up doing the mold inspection, end up getting an independent laboratory to say this property's got 15 different types of molds, toxins, allergens, and bacteria in it. And, you know, this is what it's going to cost to fix it. So my offer is this based on that. And if they don't sell you that property for that discount, then by law, they have to disclose a copy of that lab test as part of their disclosure. That says, and on that on the lab puts on here, if people go in your house that are allergic to any of these toxins, allergens, and bacteria, it could cause serious illness and or death.
Liable.
And so now they're liable. Okay, so they end up saying, okay, I'll sell you the property, but I won't sell it to you for that, what you offered, but we will sell it to you for this. So they might not take your offer, but they'll negotiate. Okay, so you're still getting a discount. Now, as far as you buying a property that they didn't want because it had that on it, you have the course that tells what OSHA says if you do this to the house and get a clean test from the same laboratory, which if you end up having something that comes dirty and then they tell you how to clean it and you clean it for a couple of $100, even though it says that it needs rehabilitation for $30,000-$40,000. But if you clean it, then the air test will come back as this. The only way they come is elevated or non-elevated. The first one's always elevated because it shows something and there's not something to compare it to. So it's always elevated. But if this countertop was dirty and you saw it was dirty and you tested it for dirt, then it's got dirt. But if I cleaned it and then tested it again and sent it back to the same place, it's gonna come back less dirty. Do you follow me? Okay, so if it comes back elevated or non-elevated is the two only ways it comes, then this one's non-elevated and you sell your property, you disclose, we had the property tested for molds, allergens, bacteria, and toxins, and everything came back non-elevated, and you disclosed it when you sold or rented the property, then you're free and clear and everything. Because unless they do something to cause it to then get it, then you're good. Do you follow me on that? So the bank has to end up either disclosing this information or they have to sell it to you. So that's why I end up teaching that. Okay, check the days on market and everything. A lot of times people don't end up looking for the DOL. Anytime that you end up looking up something and you have somebody look on the MLS for you, always look for comparable sales, not comparable listings. Just because something's listed for a price does not mean that that's what it's going to sell for. Okay, you want to see what the sold prices are for. Okay, because if it's sold, then that means that that's what that neighborhood will actually bring in purchase money. Okay, so you can't end up relying on an estimate or a listed price. It's because I could end up telling you I want to sell a VW Bug for $20,000, but if everybody else has the same type of VW Bug and they're selling it for $7,500, then that doesn't mean anything because nobody bought this at that price. You have to go with what did somebody buy something similar for and actually paid for it recently. Okay, and the days on the market is always something because, okay, how many of you have heard the word subject to? You buy it subject to, all right? And how many of you obviously know that that means that you make the payments on somebody else's property subject to the agreement that's already in play, okay? So that means that if you're gonna take over somebody's property subject to, and you look and you see the days on the market for properties in that area take 120 days to sell, then that means that you're gonna make 4 payments on that house according to what it takes time to sell that house for this amount of money. So you have to sell it for that amount of money and know right away that not only are you gonna have the fix-up cost, but you need to add 4 months carrying cost because that's how much the days on market are gonna be. And most people forget to add that in and they end up going, well, that's $1,200 a month. That's 12, 24, 36, 48. That's almost $5,000 more than what I didn't put that $5,000 in there. So I lost money. But see, if you'd have looked at the days on market, then you would have known that you're gonna hold that property for that amount of time. And if you sell it for in less time, it's probably because you sold it for a little less money, okay? So it's just real good. Search off market and distressed leads and everything. One of the best ways and everything, talk to somebody like Tony and everything, somebody who deals with distressed markets. Tom out there in Cartersville and those areas, Tom knows where all the properties are and everything. Tim's out there fixing them up and everything, getting things going. He's got properties going and everything. Laura knows where stuff's at around here. Jeff knows where stuff at. Jeff's been in Gwinnett County. He's been in Suwanee. He's been in Cartersville. He's been in Marietta. and he's even gone with me and everything. One of the things, and we filmed this and everything, we actually walked around holding our phones like this, filming each other and everything. We were out looking at some property and everything, and we ended up seeing a property, and we got out, we thought it was vacant, and we were walking around it, and some lady came out and came out and goes, "Hi, can I help y'all?" And I said, "Oh."
About 80 years old.
Yeah, she was about 80, and I said, you know, a real estate agent told us that, and this was a line that I got from Tony, a real estate agent told us that you know, this house might be for sale and everything. We didn't see a for sale sign in the yard and everything, but you know, this was the address that I wrote down. Maybe we got the wrong house, but we were just looking. We're sorry if we startled you. And she goes, "Well, my daughter's probably she's trying to sell the house and everything, but we don't have it listed and everything." She said, "Do you want to come inside and take a look?" And we went, "Damn right we do." And so, I mean, we didn't say it exactly like that and everything. I think it was more like, "Well, yes, ma'am."
Yes, ma'am.
And so we went in there, and she would walk around and she'd go, "It's got a leak right here," and you know, and so we're sitting there with our phone going, you know, and walking around, and you know, after a couple of minutes, I said, "Do you mind if I take a couple of pictures and everything just for reference?" She goes, "No, I don't mind," and everything. So now I can film, and Jeff can film, and we asked a couple of questions and everything, and she was just as friendly as she could be and everything. We ended up doing the due diligence on the house and everything, and we ended up talking to the daughter. Turns out that the daughter was doing some stuff behind her back, trying to end up scamming her mother out of the money, and instead of ending up dealing with the daughter, we ended up having to, and you know, this was a tough choice. We ended up having to end up talking to the lady and saying, "These are the people that your daughter have talked to and everything, and she's looking to just end up cashing out your house and everything." And she said, "Well, she's supposed to be helping me move to someplace else and everything," and that's not what the negotiations were with some of the people that she was dealing with. And so we ended up recommended that she ended up talking to somebody else, and I did follow up on it and everything, and she ended up getting in an argument with her sister, and she ended up, I mean, not her sister, her daughter, but she ended up selling the house and everything on her own and moved to a assisted living house and everything on the money, and she just put it in an account, and one of her other relatives was in charge of making sure that all of her bills got paid and everything. And so she thanked us really, really well for that and everything. So, you know, it's not always about the deal. Sometimes it's just about helping somebody. And if you help enough people, then the money will come and everything. So that's something that a lot of people in here have always taught. Tony always ended up saying that, you know, if you end up helping people, then, you know, the money comes and everything. So another thing that I learned from him is, when you're driving around and you see moving trucks and everything, Tony always would stop and everything. We'd be out on a bus, and Tony would see a moving truck, and he'd go, "Stop the bus, stop the bus." And even when it first started happening, I'd go, "What do you want to stop for? They're moving." He goes, "They're either moving in or they're moving out. We need to know which and everything, because if there's a moving truck there, then that means that somebody's moving, and it's either going to be vacant, for sale, or rentable and everything, or, you know." So, and he would go and he would end up talking to the people. So, you know, there's a learning experience in everything. Public records and everything, you can end up looking up public records. Like I said, Q Public is something that I like to look at. It tells you a bunch of information and everything. All you got to do is key in the address and stuff like that. Auctions and foreclosures. I think that because Darlene Cockerell's not here, Darlene's one of our favorite people in here and everything. She's involved in many clubs around. She ends up doing distressed properties, and she's very, very good at it. She's got a daughter, Kelly, that buys properties. She's bought 3 in 3 months that I know of at the courthouse steps and everything. They're normally here. I hear that Darlene is hobbling around on a hurt foot. Is that correct? I heard something about that.
I haven't seen her in a few weeks. She still
Okay.
might be.
Okay. And, you know, so she's given me a run for my money on cruises recently and everything. So, you know, when we're not speaking on a cruise, then we're normally booking a cruise, because my wife loves to to go on cruises, and I love buffets, and and the thing is that if I go to a buffet on my own, then my wife gets mad. If we're on a cruise, hey, it's a buffet. What can I do? Sue me. You know, they have a buffet on the boat. So, all right, driving for dollars and everything. You know, Laura Baker and everything, and everybody at Georgia REIA, that's been one of their biggest things for years. Is they have the big thing, driving for dollars. They used to have groups that would get together and they'd drive around and then meet up afterwards and talk about all the things that they did and everything. And it's probably one of Gordon's and ideas and everything from 40 years back and everything that still works today and everything. But that's always good. Look, you know, when you're going through there, look for things that have peeling paint. Look for things that need a new roof, stuff like that. Remember, anything that you can pick apart about the house and everything, if there's something wrong with the house, you're going to end up getting a discount, okay? If you end up going looking for perfect houses, you're going to pay perfect prices, all right? That's what a lot of people don't understand. They end up going, I don't want to rehab houses and everything. Bull crap. I don't care who you are. If you're going to get into the real estate business, you're going to rehab houses. If you live in a house, you rehab houses. You know, it doesn't matter if you're a rehabber or not. You're going to be a rehabber. And as a matter of fact, Jeff helped me write a book one time. I've written 4 books, actually 5 and everything. But this one I haven't actually put on published anywhere and everything. But it was called "You Might Be a Rehabber If."
Yeah.
Just like Jeff Foxworthy's thing. And remember, we used to go around and ask people, if you want to be in the book and everything, here's 150 things that of the pages and everything that I'm putting together. If you want to be put in the book and everything, or want a quote in there, then make something. But you can't copy Jeff Foxworthy because, you know, obviously copyright infringement and everything. But it's got to be something that's not if you're a redneck. Okay, it can't be something copied from it. You might be a redneck and you might be a rehabber. So, I mean, it was stuff like this. One of my favorite ones and everything that I came up with was, if you named your children DeWalt, Stanley, and Makita, you might be a rehabber. And, you know, if you have a dog named Bondo, which one of my most popular articles and everything that's out there on the internet is how to fix things with Bondo, rotted wood, window sills and stuff like that, holes in doors and everything. There's 23 things that I talked about that you can fix with Bondo. But what's funny is we ended up learning that and everything. I learned it from somebody who had been doing it for 50 years before I was doing it. And with my painting and remodeling and construction companies, me and Tony were doing some stuff for. They ended up selling out one of the banks and turned it from one bank branch to another bank branch, and we were rebuilding one of the banks and everything. And one of the guys that was working alongside us, he ended up saying, "Here, come here, I want to show you something," and everything. And he showed me how he was repairing some rotted wood with Bondo and everything, so that he didn't have to tear apart a $3,000 thing and you know, to rip it all out of stucco and all this kind of stuff, just to end up making it to where it was a permanent fix. And he ended up fixing it for under $20. And I thought, that's ingenious and everything. But the thing is that I learned a lot of the stuff that you see in my 101 rehab tips by ended up hiring people that were older than I was and letting experience speak for itself. Because if you don't know what to do, the best thing in the world you can do is to hire somebody with experience and do what they do. That's the whole idea behind real estate. There's people out there that want to be your competition, and there's people out there that will end up working with you. Okay? Now, if you're not afraid to pay for a little bit of education, then you know what? There's going to be people. See, that's something that I just don't understand. Why are people still fighting the education part? From the time that you're this tall until you end up going to your grave, you know that educated people are the ones that end up doing well. And it doesn't mean that they went to a lot of school. It means that they put themselves around the right people that educated them in something. It doesn't mean necessarily school, but the thing is that most everything that I learned that's still with me, I learned from somebody that was much older than me. And I used to fight it like cats and dogs and everything. But you know what? One of the biggest things that I used to fight is my parents and our father and stuff. Me and Tony, you know, obviously he's had those parents for longer than I did. Because he's older than me. And you know, I've known him all my life, but he hasn't known me. Well, yeah, he has known me all my life. One of those things is wrong. But anyway, you know. But the funny thing is you learn from the weirdest situations, and that the thing is that putting yourself in a room like this is going to be the best thing that you can do. Evaluate the bones. Okay, when you say the bones, that means when you walk into a property, don't look at what's so much the things that you're going, oh, that's bad. There's holes in the walls. You know what? Beat up walls are great and everything, because you know what? A lot of people are looking at these beat up walls and they're going, man, I'm going to have to pay $5,000 to have all of that busted sheetrock. You know, people's punched holes in it, sprayed graffiti on it and everything. You can't fix that. I'm going to have to rip it all out. Well, one of the things that I learned as a general contractor, and that I have been teaching for 30 some years, is that you don't always have to demo it and pull it all out. Guess what? If you end up putting 1/4 inch drywall right over the top of whatever's in there, then you're only taking 1 inch of space out of the 4 walls room. You follow me on that? 1/4 of an inch on each wall. It's not making the walls thin because you're going over the top of the other. The only thing that you got to do is you got to take the baseboards off, which I replaced the baseboards anyway because we're going to put new flooring in of some sort. And I'll put new baseboards in because you want the new sheetrock to go behind the baseboard, okay? So that's a given anyway. The only thing that you got to do is have somebody take with a screw gun and pull the light sockets and the electric sockets out the extra space for it to fit flat on the wall, like that electric socket over there. But, you know, I've seen people that they said, yeah, you know, we've been spending hours and hours and hours, and we spent several $1,000s and everything hiring a company to come in and end up taking the popcorn off the ceilings because nobody likes popcorn ceilings anymore. Why would you do that? Just hire somebody, and in 3 hours they'll end up putting sheetrock, 1/4 inch sheetrock over every ceiling you have in the house. Now you have brand new ceilings and everything. And
When you do that, how do you deal with crown molding on the side?
I take it off. I'll take it off and everything and replace it, because if I'm gonna do it in a house that's got crown molding, then I'm gonna make my money back on it. But there are people, if I have a good enough sheetrocker, then I'll let the sheetrocker go up to it and everything. But the other thing is, when you're looking at the trim around the door frames and window frames, I won't remove those, because if it's only 1/4 inch and those are sticking out at least 1 inch, then you're not going to notice that and everything. So I can butt right up against it and everything. So I don't worry about that, but I do take off the baseboards, okay? Crown molding, I would probably end up taking the crown molding off and have that replaced and everything, because if you end up putting in new crown molding, then that attracts people, and they don't know if there was crown molding in there before, so they think, oh yeah, I would want the crown molding in there, and they think that you did something added extra. Okay, distinguish between profitable cosmetic work and money pit structural issues. Okay, let me give you this idea, okay? All right, so if you go in and it's got granite countertops and you put granite countertops in it, you have not raised the value, even though that you've spent thousands of dollars on granite countertops. Do you understand what I'm saying? The last time that somebody came in and appraised that property in the condition it was in, it had countertops. It had kitchen sinks. It had toilets. It had flooring. The only way that you can end up raising the value is to make an improvement in whatever it is. So if you have Corian countertops and you put granite in, that raises the value, okay? Because you went from this type to a better type. So if you've got granite countertops in there, then you need to go with, if you've got granite, then you need to go with quartz, or you need to go with quartzite, or something that raises the value of it, okay? The other thing that you can do is anytime that you can put more seats or more countertop space. So if you've got a decent sized kitchen, if you want to end up bringing up the value of the property, then you can buy just an island in there and put the island in the center for $800, $1,200. You can spend as little as or as much as you want. But if it's got a way to where it's got an overhang on the ends and an overhang over here, then you could put chairs underneath it. So now you have countertop serving space and you have seating area. Do you follow me? If it doesn't have a good place for a kitchen or a kitchen table or an eat-in table, put an island in there that you can put some chairs around. Do you follow me? Now you've got eating space, okay? These are things that will add value. If you end up having a deck on the outside, make the deck somewhat bigger. Only if you take it 2 feet out further and 5 feet out further this way, you've added square footage to the house. And if the house, you might be paying $20 a square foot to end up adding something on to the deck, because that's what deck prices cost. But when they end up giving the price of the house, they end up going by the living space and the usable space. And then if it says that this property is selling for this much, and in this house, then that ends up, that area says that it's $500 per square foot is what the house prices go for, then they're gonna add that square footage that you put on there, okay? Do you follow me on that? So you add square footage to the whole house just by adding to the deck. So if it's got a 4-foot deck on the back and everything just to stand out on, if you end up making a 12-foot deck, then you've just added square footage to the entire house, okay? If it's got a big deck on the outside, if you want to end up making the property value go up, screen in half of it and leave the other half not screened in, okay? If you want to end up making it even better than that, then where you end up putting the screen part in, put the little slats down there and don't put screen in it. Use storm windows that you can end up having screens that fit that same size with the little pull down things, you know, like a regular window screen that you can put in the summer, and then have it to where you can take those off, and then you end up having the exact same size because they're standard. You put the storm windows in there and screw those in with screws. Now you have heated and air conditioned area because the bottom from the waist wall down is put in with sheetrock and basically you've done it like that. So you can have an airy type situation and a screen porch during the summer, but you can have heated and air conditioned area in the winter. Y'all follow me on this? That adds big bucks. It adds up square footage. It's not going to cost you $500 a foot to build it, but if you're in an area that you're paying, you know, $350 a square foot and everything, $350 a foot for living space, and you just put 1,200 extra living space in it, or 800 for that matter, then you're looking real good. Return on income and everything, focus on homes needing paint, flooring, kitchen, bath updates. If you can end up adding anything to the bath, then you're doing good. If you've got something that's got 2.5 baths, if you can put an extra bathroom in there, then you might end up getting $35,000, $40,000, $50,000 extra on the property, and you might only pay $18,000 to $22,000 to do
If
it.
you have a bathroom that has the foot bath, bathtub, and you turn it into a walk-in shower,
Right.
is that considered an improvement, or is that
Yes.
takeaway?
Yes, one of the cheapest, easiest things that you can do is end up, if you've got space between where your sink is and where your toilet is, move the toilet over, have the plumber move this over, even if it's only 12 inches, and then end up extending the walk-in shower. Or if it's a bathtub, move the toilet over, take the bathtub part out and make it a walk-in shower. I always leave one bathtub in every house.
People have
Be-
babies.
because they're gonna have, somebody's one time or another gonna have babies in that house, even if it's grandkids. I know, okay? But the thing is, to have walk-in showers for the older people and everything, then they want that. And the bigger it is, the better off you're gonna get, yes.
Pete, what do you think about, changing out pink and blue bathrooms?
You know,
Coming from?
I would do that.
I just throw it in the garbage can.
Yeah.
What it was.
Yeah, olive green and everything.
Yes, olive green.
Yes.
Avocado, whatever it is that you wanna call it. You know what, I have done this, and I have a videotape of me doing this. We went into a property and the guy did not wanna spend much money on it and everything, and we went to Home Depot and I bought some stuff to where we ended up getting, countertop paint. And we painted the countertops, and me and you have done this
Yeah.
on one of Mike Jacobson's house that we were working on together. We actually ended up making one look like marble. Jeff painted a base coat on it, and then after that dried, we ended up pouring these different colors on it to make streaks on it.
Yep, just feathers and.
And yeah, we actually took feathers that were out of pillows and stuff like that, and just sort of messed around, and it looked like faux marble and everything. But anyway, like I was saying, so we ended up we painted the countertops, which were mauve, and we painted them white. We ended up taking the bathtub and we painted it with some sort of epoxy that we put on with a brush and roller. We didn't spray it, we did it with a brush and roller, and it actually ended up we put 2 coats on it. And I think we paid like $90-some to do both of those 2 things. And then Rust-Oleum had another paint and everything that looked exactly like aluminum appliances, stainless steel appliances. And we painted the dishwasher face, the refrigerator and the stove and the microwave, and we painted those with it, and people came in, and because it looked like white countertops, stainless steel kitchen, and the bathrooms looked great and everything, and all it had to do was last for 5 years, and you know, and he ended up selling the property for $52,000 more than what he was asking before we did the fix up on it, and it sold in 3 days. And it had been on the market for, I think, something like 8 months, and he hardly got any hits on it. And his name was Carl Fisher, the guy who owns Camaplan Self-Directed IRAs. And we filmed it. It's in some of my training programs and everything. But you know, we spent like $130 and ended up making over $40-some thousand profit just based on some small techniques and everything. Avoid homes with major foundation cracks, severe water, mold damage, or total system failures. Now, the reason why I wanted that to be in there is because that's what everybody is recommending if you end up Googling what you need to do and everything. And that right there is not deal breakers for me. That is the deal makers for me. And I think that there's probably at least a dozen people in here that would agree with me on that and everything. So that right there is the thing. I want there to be mold. I want there to be foundation cracks. Because guess what? You remember I told you about fixing things with Bondo? If you end up taking Bondo and you end up seeing cracks in foundations, and you end up taking a glove, just a gardener's glove that you get from Harbor Freight on sale for $5, and you end up taking Bondo now, because of what we've been talking about, Home Depot sells Bondo in the paint department, which it used to be only available in auto parts places and everything. But ever since I've been talking about it, we've worked hand in hand with Home Depot for 30 years and everything. You know, I've had a great relationship with them. And so we end up taking the Bondo and we'll put it on the glove and we'll rub it into the concrete places that are on the foundation, either on the inside, cinder block, bricks, whatever it is, and then we'll end up painting it. But if you put it on with those real heavy duty gloves and wipe it in the cracks, and just like anything else, if you leave just enough for you to sand it, then it will sand smooth and everything. It dries rock hard in 10 minutes. But another thing that I'll do is I'll put it on there, and if it's a rough surface, then I'll take those gloves and go like that, and it will end up just pulling a little bit of grain on it, just like the grain of what's there. And if I don't have that type of grain, then what I'll do is I'll put some Bondo on a piece of cardboard and leave it wet. and I'll spray some good concrete or some good stucco. This is how I end up fixing holes in stucco. Spray it with Pam cooking oil, because I would say WD-40 oil, but I was at somebody's house and we were doing this, and I said, "You got any WD-40? They said, "No, I don't." I said, "You got some Pam cooking oil?" They go, "Yeah, I'm sure my wife's got that in the kitchen." So they went and got me the Pam cooking oil. All I needed was something that was lubricating. So I ended up putting Bondo on a piece of cardboard that I cut out that was a little bit bigger than what I was going over. Ended up spraying the area of good stucco with the Pam cooking oil, and then sprayed this wet Bondo that I had just mixed up, pushed it on there, and then flattened it on there, and then put duct tape on it and waited 10 minutes for it to dry rock solid hard. When I pulled it off, that was the template of what that stucco looks like. So then I ended up putting stucco over the crack or the hole, and if it was a big hole and it didn't have anything behind it, then I'd cram tinfoil in there or newspaper to give the Bondo something to hold on to. I would end up putting the Bondo on with a plastic putty knife, which are 50, 70, $1, 50 cents, 70 cents, $1 at Home Depot or whatever, and leave enough to where when it dries, I could sand it. But the thing was, I didn't want to sand it. What I wanted to do is I wanted to spread it out and feather it just a little bit. And then while this was wet and this was rock solid hard, I'd spray this with the Pam cooking oil and put it on the wet Bondo that I had feathered in on there and push it against it, and then rub it like this and make sure it was nice and flat. Tape it on there with duct tape for 10 minutes, then pull it off. Now it would look red, but it would be exactly rock solid hard Bondo, the exact same shape and the texture. Now I would end up having to take acetone to end up wiping the oil off so that the paint would stick, but then I would paint the area that was on there, and you could not tell the difference between, and that's some of the stuff that's on my Bondo stuff. How many of you like that tip? That's pretty cool, right? And you've seen me do that,
Was
right?
that the Pam with the butter or the Pam with the olive oil?
It's butter tasting. It's butter tasting, because then that way when you're eating lunch and everything and you're putting your hand up there, then you don't get sick. So anyway, you calculate the after repair value and compare the home's potential finished state with recent sales and everything. And I've already ended up telling you about that and everything. I end up going for that with PropStream, with QPublic. Tony ended up saying you can do it with IDI and stuff like that and everything. But you just end up finding those types of things. And we're going to close this out with finalizing the inspections and offers. Now, you can get a professional inspection, and I always end up saying do a professional inspection before you buy the property, okay? Before you put money in the property, get a professional inspection. But there is things that we're gonna have property inspection trips that we're gonna do on Saturdays and stuff. And obviously we have information to where I have a 14-page property inspection report. I have videos and trainings on how to do it yourself and everything, so that if you find something wrong with the property before you spend $300 for a professional to go and do it, then if you're looking at 10 properties and you don't want to spend $3,000 for somebody to tell you what's wrong with it, if you learn how to do it yourself, basic, and you don't see anything that stops you from buying it, then you pay for a professional property inspection, and you know you're going to make the money to pay for that back off of the profit you made from the property. Okay, so if you know basic real estate inspection and you see something that stops you from buying it, then you don't need a professional to tell you why. What you hire a professional for is before you buy it, so that they end up going back with a fine-tooth comb and make sure that you didn't miss something. And if you can live with what they find and it doesn't stop you from buying it, then when you do rent or sell the property, then it's going to end up being able to give you the profit to pay that person back. So you're basically learning to only pay for property inspections and things that you need to do. That's why it's so important to go out on field trips and have somebody take you out in the field so that you can see what you're looking for. Because if you have to pay for everything that you're looking at, if you have to pay somebody else to do it and everything, then you're gonna end up spending a lot of money in this business. the best thing to do is to end up having somebody take you out and walk you step by step through exactly what it's gonna take to end up looking at a property and evaluating what it is, and let them tell you, these are the steps, and you just go through it and everything. And once you end up learning it, then you can repeat that over and over and over again and everything. And so that's when you start to get your contractor quotes and everything. Anybody that's a member of this club and everything, then there's people that are in this club, and they end up doing rehab work and everything, and some of them are for hire, some of them are not and everything, but I won't throw any names out there and everything until they end up saying that they're open for stuff like that. But if you ever are in need of a contractor and you're in this group and everything, then you can call me. Everybody in here should already have my number. If you don't, get it before you leave. Obviously, you can end up Googling Pete Youngs with an S and everything. You'll get all my contact information, all my emails and all that. But if you ask me, then I will call the people that I know who do rehab work in here and ask them, you know, hey, can I give your number to so-and-so? They're looking for somebody and everything. Now, there are people who are going, yes, man, give my name to anybody and everything. We're always wanting to end up having new clients and everything. But there's some people in here that I know do great work and everything, and I want to make sure that they end up, you know, needing the work and everything, or can handle the workload and everything, because there's always somebody in here that needs something and everything. Other than that, we'll take questions for a couple of minutes and everything. Yes?
At what point do you do the mold inspection? Because you do your own inspection, and then you have a professional inspector coming after that. Is he gonna kind of say, well, I didn't do that test?
No, because when it comes down to the mold inspection, what it is if I'm going through the house, I will already assume when I end up doing the mold, it's gonna pay for anything that I need to do. Okay, I'm gonna save so much money off of the discount that I'm gonna get by having mold, then I will end up hiring a property inspector to come in after I do it, but that's when it's my property, not when it's the bank's property. So what I do is I secure my discount first, then when it's my property, that's when I bring in somebody from the group that will work with me and make sure that whatever we have to do to fix it up, we end up doing at a reasonable rate. Anybody else? All right, yes?
I just have a question when it comes to extending your square footage. Do you have to get permits or anything? Is there any threshold where you can do the extension and not have to get a permit, or you always have to get a permit?
If you are changing the structure of something, then you would have to get a permit and an inspection. Okay, I'll give you an example. If you're extending out a deck and everything, you're not really changing the structure, except for the fact that you need to make sure that the poles match exactly what's what and everything and all that. What you're talking about is like if you end up adding onto a bathroom and you have 2-inch pipes and you end up hearing from the plumber, we need to change that to a 3-inch pipe. Now you're changing the actual structure. That's gonna need a permit. You don't need a permit to change a toilet. You don't need a permit to change a sink. You don't need a you don't need a permit to end up putting in a breaker and stuff like that, or replace a breaker. But if you're putting in new wiring and it's coming into the box, you do have to have a permit and an inspection for something new coming in there. So basically, it's if you're doing repair work, then repair work a lot of times does not need a permit, but anytime that you change the structure or the integrity of something, then that's when you do it. And if you ever have a question, call me and tell me what you're looking to do, and I will tell you what it does, whether it needs it or not. Any other questions? Yes?
Just a quick question on field day. Do we get notification on those?
Oh, for the field trips? Yes. What we do is we'd send out something probably 2 weeks before the next meeting and end up talking about it and saying, this will be available for you to sign up either now online, or we're going to talk about it briefly at the next meeting. So I would end up scheduling something, then I would end up putting it out there on the emails, and obviously we would talk about it in here. All right, so yeah.
Pete, one question, it's kinda off topic outside of, fix and flip, but if you would get a house, buy a house, whether you're doing, whether you're paying cash for it or getting a loan, what do you want to cash flow for a $300,000 house, $350,000? What would you be, what on average? And I know that number would vary for each investor. $300, $500 a month, $1,000 a month?
Well,
If you
basically,
buy and hold.
seeing as though I end up doing this in different markets and everything,
Yeah.
instead of trying to put a dollar amount on it, because it varies from state to state, from county to county, I would end up saying I want to make between 20 and 25% on my money and everything. If you're making 20 to 25% on a real estate deal, you're doing great and everything. And that's after your costs. Okay, once you end up taking all your costs, if you can do 20 to 25%, then you're doing real good. Okay, as far as anything else, if I'm loaning money out, then if you're making 10 to 15% on your money, then you're normally doing pretty good, because if you end up going with some of your bigger brokerage and investment firms, I know a lot of people in here that have like a high rate savings account, and they're making 5%. Okay, to me that's not a high enough rate. I do have money that's in a savings account that's at 5%, but it's holding money that I loan out at 10 to 15%, and this is where I hold it to where it's at least making 5% while it's sitting there, and then I loan it out, and I'll do up to a 12-month or whatever somebody agrees with me, but normally it's 12 months or less and everything, and I know that when I get the money back, I put it back in there. Except for if I loan money out of my self-directed IRA, then any money that I loan out of my self-directed IRA, all that money and the profit goes back into the IRA. So that way, I'm not only being able to put $7,000 a year in my IRA, then if I loan money out of it and I end up loaning that money and I make $35,000 or $40,000 off of the deal, then I can put all of that money that was profit, it goes back into the IRA, and you can actually make a six-figure, you can add 6 figures to your IRA easily if you're investing in real estate with it and everything, and you do the right thing. But anything that you do out of your IRA, if it has to go back in your IRA. But that's how come you end up seeing all these people complaining about politicians. Oh, he's got millions of dollars in a self-directed IRA and he's not paying taxes. It's the same thing that you can do. You know, if you had that kind of money, you'd do it too. And the only thing is that he has more money. The same principles work if you got $100 or if you got $100 million. It's still the same principles. It's how much money is in your IRA. If you invest it, then that profit can go back into your IRA, and it's actually supposed to, and that's how you end up getting over the $7,000 limit and everything. The other thing is like, do you have a self-directed IRA? Okay, let's assume that the answer is no for your children. Okay, if you end up no, I was talking about if she did not have a self-directed IRA yet for him, I would end up suggesting that she start one, because we started self-directed IRAs and different types of IRAs for our grandkids and everything right when they were first starting to walk. And the reason being is because an IRA has to be active for 5 years before you can actually invest with it. A lot of people don't realize that. Okay, so the thing is that if you're going to be putting money in for your kids for their college and everything, you might as well be putting it in their own self-directed IRA or their own IRA, Roth maybe, or traditional. And the thing is that you can pay your kids for their chores. You can pay you can take pictures of your kids and everything and put them in your advertisements for your properties, for your stuff like that, and you can pay them for their stuff. you know, I mean, there's loads and loads of different things that you can end up to where they have an income and you put that money into their IRAs, okay? If you're putting money in there for their education and you're making the regular things that you can put in there, what, $5,000-7,000 a year and everything, if you're doing that anyway, by time they get to be where it's 5 years old, you might have $20,000 in there that you can end up putting a down payment on a property. And if it's more and everything, then obviously you can do a bigger deal and everything. But we have gotten people into situations to where not only did they have enough money in their child's self-directed or Roth IRA by the time they got out of high school and started to go to college, that they had enough money in that to pay for their college, and then a down payment on their house, if not almost 50% of their house that they ended up moving into because they started when they were young. And that way you don't have to put literally thousands of dollars in all the time. If you start low enough and start working it up just a little bit at a time, then over a period of time, then by the time they're 18 years old and everything, there's no telling what can be in there. But it's all about knowing what you know now and what will you act on now.
Do
Yes.
they get access to that when they turn 18?
Yes, you can, they can actually.
They can, or you have to give it to them?
If you're on there as a signer too,
Uh-huh.
then there's gonna be a time to where you're gonna have to turn it over to them, or as long as, see, you can end up having it as them as the beneficiary, and then they can't take it from you.
Right, okay.
Okay, so I think that's what you were getting at. Can somebody take it from you without you giving it to them? Okay, if you, I would list them as the beneficiary until you're ready to turn it over to them. And then that way, if they're just the beneficiary, then they can't take it from you without you giving it to them.
Right. You're not obligated to give them money when they turn 18, is what I'm
You're-
saying.
no,
You're not
you-
giving them a loaded gun.
Right. Yes. Yeah, because that's some of the things that we've had to do as far as, you know, with some of the people on some sides of my wife's sides of the family. You know, they had some people that left some money, and they ended up spacing it out to where they could not get a lump sum all at once and go just blow it.
Well, you
And
go
it-
into a trust and the trust has an overseer and the overseer
Right.
gives them X
Right.
amount.
What they did is they had somebody that was an executor or
Executor.
somebody that actually did it. The other thing is that anybody that ever wants to open up a self-directed IRA or a Roth IRA or a traditional, if you end up coming to me, then as long as you're an active member of this club, which everybody in here is, then you can open up one with Camaplan, which is a nationwide, well-respected place for over 20 years and everything for $1. Okay? And
You can earn a lot on $1.
I have that.
I mean, that's all it takes to open it and everything. And as long as it's open and everything, and you put like $50 in it and everything, to make it a legitimate, you know, instead of just paying $1 to open it and then never putting anything in it. But as long as it's got, you know, some sort of cash in it other than just the opening of it, then that starts your 5-year period.
Well, if you're not putting money in it, it doesn't make any sense to open the damn thing.
Right. Because, and see, that's why people can have all this money and it all be tax-free, and everybody gets so mad about it, you know, but that's been one of the secrets of politicians is they get money and they throw it in their IRAs, and then they invest with it, and then that money goes in their IRAs, and then everybody screams murder that they're not paying taxes and that they've got millions and millions and millions of dollars and they're not paying taxes. It's because of the way that they earned the money and the way that they saved the money and everything. You know, I mean, some of the money's tax deferred, some of the money's tax free and everything. It all depends on how you do it. All right, so we have to be out by 9:30. So if y'all want to network, then now would be your networking time and everything. If you enjoyed the meeting and everything, then keep in mind we meet here the first Tuesday of every month. If there's an auction in Georgia, then that means there's a meeting here that night. Okay? If you did not sign this paper given me a legible, readable email, then you'll get emails if these can be read. Now, sometimes I send personal email, I try and send one personal email every month to end up, and I'll ask you, tell me how many people you're bringing so that I'll know how much food to bring. But the regular person that I pay to end up sending the emails out and everything, they're just doing their paycheck and everything. They're just doing what's necessary. I'm gonna ask you this, they're gonna end up sending out just whatever it is that they type up and then they throw it out. I know it's not a virtual assistant and everything, it's actually, somebody that sits in an office and everything that makes a real wage and everything. They don't have to do 15 clients and everything. They're actually making a real wage. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it and everything. And how many of you will be able to come back next month? And if you can, bring somebody with you. That'd be great. And I hope you enjoyed the meeting tonight, and I hope you learned something. And next month, thank you so much. Make sure and grab some cake. Next month, we're gonna have somebody that Gordon has ended up recommending for us and everything. I will end up sending something out within the next 3 or 4 days, and then